Welcome back to the AI Breakdown. Today we are talking about the much-awaited announcement of ChatGPT Enterprise. We're going to talk about what the announcement actually has within it, some of the initial reactions, and what it means for the broader competitive landscape. So first of all, let's talk about the announcement itself. Sam Altman tweets, "We launched ChatGPT Enterprise, enterprise-grade security and privacy, large-scale deployment support, unlimited and fast GPT-4, 32K context, and more. Customization on your company's data coming soon." So right out of the gate, we have some information about interesting things, some of which were expected, some of which were not, and some features which are not there yet, which could be consequential. OpenAI's announcement blog post reads, "We're launching ChatGPT Enterprise, which offers enterprise-grade security and privacy, unlimited higher-speed GPT-4 access, longer context windows for processing longer inputs, advanced data analysis capabilities, customization options, and much more." Now, of course, on top of those statements, they give a few more details. When it comes to what they call enterprise-grade security and privacy, OpenAI assures, quote, "Customer prompts and company data are not used for training OpenAI models." This is something that they announced when they first suggested that a ChatGPT Business Edition was coming, that it would be private by default. In fact, they announced this business model first in concert with an announcement that there was now a private no data training option even for the general ChatGPT. In addition, under enterprise-grade security and privacy, they say that it's certified SOC 2 compliant. Now, this is an independent rating that's a voluntary certification from the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants that provides guidance on how organizations should manage customer data. There are 5 trust services criteria or elements within that, including security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. But I think for the purposes of our conversation, what's relevant is that they are trying to say this is an independent type of certification that really does back up this claim that this is enterprise grade. Next up, they list their features for large-scale deployments. There is now an admin console with bulk member management. Obviously, if teams are deploying this across the enterprise or even across entire divisions, giving administrators the ability to change permissions, kick people out, all of that sort of stuff that you would expect from enterprise software, it sounds like that is now a part of this offering. There's single sign-on, which plugs into other systems, domain verification, and an analytics dashboard that'll provide admins the ability to understand usage patterns. Now, on top of that, they are also claiming that the Enterprise Edition provides access to the, quote, "most powerful version of ChatGPT yet. Unlimited access to GPT-4, no usage caps." Of course, even if you are a ChatGPT Plus user right now, there are caps on how much you can use GPT-4 versus GPT 3.5. There is faster inference, or what they call higher speed performance of GPT-4, which they say is up to 2x faster. Unlimited access to advanced data analysis. This is interesting in both substance and marketing. They write, "This was formerly known as Code Interpreter." Now, obviously, Code Interpreter is one of the most significant features that OpenAI has ever released. About a month ago, I had a conversation with the guys from the Latent Space podcast about why Code Interpreter is such a significant upgrade that it effectively turns GPT-4 into GPT 4.5. The TLDR on that is that by giving ChatGPT the ability to write scripts to solve problems, it opens up a whole range of use cases that without Code Interpreter, it doesn't perform very well on, but with Code Interpreter, it can do really well. It makes total sense then that they are including this feature as a core part of the enterprise offering. And given how badly named Code Interpreter was, it also makes sense that they're moving towards the more descriptive explainer of advanced data analysis. The jump up to a 32K token context window is obviously a significant move. This allows for much larger enterprise documents, PDFs, etc. to be input without having to be broken up or without having to use things like embeddings. The Enterprise Edition also comes with credits to use their APIs for companies that find that they need a fully customized solution. And finally, they also have shareable chat templates for the company. So to the extent that there are common workflows, people don't have to do the same work over and over. I think in a lot of ways, this nails what you would expect from an enterprise offering from ChatGPT. Faster performance, Code Interpreter embedded, a bigger context window, GPT-4 all the time. All of this totally makes sense and makes it a good offering. And when it comes to demand, OpenAI says that it has been intense. They write, "We've seen unprecedented demand for ChatGPT inside organizations. Since ChatGPT's launch just 9 months ago, we've seen teams adopt it in over 80% of Fortune 500 companies." Now, that 80% statistic refers to the percentage of Fortune 500 companies where someone using an email address associated with that corporate domain has signed up for ChatGPT. Obviously, that could be someone signing up to use it personally just with their corporate email address, but the inference that they're making is that if people are using their corporate email addresses to sign up, they're likely using it for work. OpenAI continues, We've heard from business leaders that they'd like a simple and safe way of deploying it in their organization. Early users of ChatGPT Enterprise, industry leaders like Block, Canva, Carlyle, the Estee Lauder companies, PwC, and Zapier, are redefining how they operate and are using ChatGPT to craft clearer communications, accelerate coding tasks, rapidly explore answers to complex business questions, assist with creative work, and much more. So a couple things that are interesting from this. One, it's clear that there has been some beta period in which a number of different companies have been using this ChatGPT Enterprise model or something close to it. And interestingly, those companies include not only tech companies that you might expect like Block and Canva, but also CPG companies like Estee Lauder. Now, what this brings up, and I think the most interesting question to explore around this, is what the long-term pattern for enterprise adoption of generative AI and specifically LLMs is likely to be. One of my most referenced tweets from this year came from Sam Hogan, an AI entrepreneur, who in July wrote what was effectively a blog post but posted it to Twitter. He begins, 6 months ago, it looked like AI and LLMs were going to bring a much-needed revival to the venture startup ecosystem after a tough few years. With companies like Jasper starting to slow down, it's looking like this may not be the case. Now, this was nominally about how startups were not being as successful in the AI space as some might have expected. One of the reasons that Sam argued that is that the availability of open source tools, combined with the excitement of managers at enterprise companies, were leading many companies that might be natural customers of startups to spin up their own solutions using those open source tools instead of working with a third-party startup that was untested, unproven, and might not be up to snuff when it comes to security, compliance, etc. Sam wrote, "Executives at enterprise companies are excited about AI and have been vocal about this from the beginning. This led a lot of founders and VCs to believe these companies would make good first customers. What the startups building for these companies failed to realize is just how aligned and savvy executives and the engineers they manage would be at quickly getting AI into production using open source tools. An engineering leader would rather spin up their own LangChain and Chroma infrastructure for free and build tech themselves than buy something from a new, unproven startup." Now, when it comes to who was losing in this environment, Sam writes, "Companies like Jasper and the VCs that back them are the biggest losers right now. Jasper raised over $100 million at a 10-figure valuation for what is essentially a generic thin wrapper around OpenAI. Their UX and brand are good but not great, and competition from companies building differentiated products specifically for high-value niches are making it very hard to grow with such a generic product." Now, obviously this question of to what extent a company that is, as Sam put it, just a generic thin wrapper around ChatGPT or OpenAI can actually survive is a really important one. In June, when he was on his global tour, one of the things that it appeared that Sam Altman was doing in private meetings was reassuring some of the leading developers of the company that OpenAI's goal was not to compete with them across the full spectrum of use cases. Basically, if you're a startup or any company that's relying on someone else's API, you're subject to the whims of that company. And if the company that owns the API decides that they want to compete in your niche, there's not a lot you can do about it. A blog post which was later pulled that detailed Sam Altman's meetings with developers in London indicated that Altman said that in general, OpenAI was not interested in competing with its developers. Where they were likely to put some effort was in and around this enterprise or business use case, basically taking ChatGPT and customizing it for a business context. Given that, then, it probably shouldn't be a surprise that what we got was exactly that, and that companies who were effectively just offering an enterprise version of ChatGPT, taking advantage of the OpenAI APIs, are potentially in a bit of trouble. Jim Fan from NVIDIA writes, "ChatGPT Enterprise, the beginning of the end of many B2B thin wrapper startups." Now, another interesting dimension of the competition question is OpenAI's increasingly complex relationship with Microsoft, its biggest investor. There has been a growing conversation about the extent to which these companies find themselves as collaborators and friends versus competitors and frenemies. Now, there's no denying that Microsoft has upside in OpenAI's success, but at the same time, that's certainly not stopping them, or certainly seems not to be stopping them, from diversifying their bets in the space. For example, Microsoft recently announced that it was planning to integrate a version of Databricks into its Azure suite, and Databricks is effectively a platform that helps enterprises create AI models from scratch or customize existing open source models and training them on their proprietary data. In that way, they represent an alternative to licensing OpenAI's models. Now, much hay has been made of this because it makes for a good story of Microsoft competing with OpenAI or there being some big shift in the relationship, but it might be as simple as a company the size of Microsoft not being willing to bet on only one horse and understanding or perhaps hearing from enterprise clients that part of what they want, given how important the proprietary data of a company is when it comes to some of the enterprise use cases of LLMs, that they might want to spin up their own solutions. Going back to Jim Phan's tweet again, he writes, one major missing feature is better retrieval. Companies have tons of docs and unstructured data. Simple embedding-based LangChain retrieval is typically not enough accuracy for mission-critical cases. No matter how intelligent the LLM, retrieving the wrong thing in context will surely lead to hallucination. Now, Sam Altman seems to understand that this is a key priority, given that in his announcement tweet, he wrote, customization on your company's data coming soon. Given that, it seems likely that OpenAI understands that while there are many use cases for which simply a more powerful version of ChatGPT that's customized for the enterprise makes sense. Indeed, they list some of them, right? Crafting clearer communications, accelerating coding tasks, etc. It may be that for some, what they really want out of an LLM is something that is trained from the ground up on their data. The big question is where on balance this ultimately lands. Is this actually a competition between this sort of third-party model offered by OpenAI and ChatGPT Enterprise versus the customized model offered by something like Databricks, or just building something from scratch using open source models? Or are they simply different tools based on the same technology but for different use cases? It wouldn't surprise me if the answer is the latter. For example, when it comes to crafting clearer communications, how much does having a model that's trained on or fine-tuned on one's corporate data really matter? One could argue that it does, that it gives the ability for the LLM to speak in the brand tone of the company in question, but it also may be that it's perfectly sufficient for the day in, day out use cases to just use the generic model. Ultimately, of course, the market will decide all these questions. And given how much the narrative has been on the idea that the model is going to be these enterprises who are customizing their own solutions versus just plugging into something like ChatGPT, I find myself somewhat skeptical. I do think in the long run that most companies will likely be fine-tuning big models on their data. However, I think in general, the pattern suggests that enterprise customized solutions tend to fail in the face of more widely available third parties. And of course, more widely connected ecosystems. In 2012, David Strom wrote, "Whatever happened to intranets?" He writes, "Back in the mid-1990s when the web was young, we had corporate intranets popping up all over the place. These were typically internal projects that were used to disseminate information to employees about projects, products, and customers. They were quick and dirty efforts that involved off-the-shelf parts and little, if any, programming. The idea was to produce a corporate web portal that was just for internal use, to enable staff to share documents, best practices, customer information, and the like. But they are mostly historical artifacts now. What happened? Well, for one thing, TCP/IP happened. Back in the mid-90s, corporate networks were hodgepodge of protocols, including SNA and NetWare. No one talks about these anymore. Having an all-IP network made it easier to adopt more internet-native technologies. Remember when sending emails from one company to another was a chore and not always successful? Now we take it for granted that we can communicate with anyone. Secondly, the tool sets got better. Many companies migrated their intranets to wikis or WordPress when it became clear that these products were easier to maintain and use. And then a whole class of products now called enterprise social networks arrived, which have ready-made discussion groups, microblogs, news streams, and social media. The point being ultimately that the pattern of entrepreneurship and creativity ultimately favored open solutions and startups that were building custom solutions versus what engineering departments could spin up on their own. I do think that when it comes to AI, the value and importance of data and customizing data for a company is higher than in some of these just general communication use cases of the early internet. But I would be very surprised if at the end of the day, the fear of data leakage, the desire to train on one's own data from the ground up, wins out against the convenience and the speed of iteration offered by external companies. That said, one thing that I think is very likely is that by and large, if the choice is between an unproven startup or an enterprise partner that already exists, a Microsoft, an Amazon Web Services, there are reasons to think that enterprises might favor those trusted partners already. But whatever happens, it's going to be interesting to see. And I think there are going to be a lot of companies out there who are very excited that ChatGPT Enterprise is now open for everyone. That's going to do it for today's AI Breakdown. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor and send it to someone who needs to go by ChatGPT Enterprise. Maybe this will help them figure out what the right solution for them is. Until next time, peace.